we're going to turn to a headline from the Paranormal Underground magazine. Former NASA scientist seeks proof that reality is a simulation. So, could our reality be a simulated one? This intriguing question, popularized by the 1990 film The Matrix, is now being investigated by former NASA physicist Thomas Campbell. Campbell's experiments aim to uncover whether our world is a computer-generated simulation, according to Yahoo.com. Campbell, who detailed his experiments in 2017, has inspired scientists at Cal Poly to test his hypothesis. His nonprofit, the Center for the Unification of Science and Consciousness, funds these efforts, expecting strong scientific evidence that we live in a computer-simulated virtual reality, unquote. One of Campbell's key experiments involves the double slit experiment, which traditionally demonstrates how light and matter exhibit both wave and particular characteristics. He believes that without an observer, quote, the actual recorded information never existed in the first place, unquote, supporting his idea that the universe is, quote, participatory. Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom also explored his theory in his 2003 paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? Bostrom's concept involves layers of simulations, while Campbell's just posits that consciousness is fundamental to reality. If successful, Campbell's experiments could radically alter our understanding of reality, potentially revealing deep connections between consciousness and the cosmos. And as Campbell states, they could challenge the conventional understanding of reality. So that's a lot. That's a lot to take in from the small article. But I thought it'd be interesting. Again, remember, if you guys want to see the full Paranormal Underground magazine and all the amazing articles that talk about ghosts and UFOs and Bigfoot and demons and I don't know, all kinds of stuff, guys, go Paranormal Underground magazine. But anyways, guys, so I think it's interesting. I mean, I think the concept of Matrix, and I gotta say, and I try not to get into politics on this channel. Mm-hmm. But I gotta say, sometimes with the craziness that's going on in the world, and I'm just speaking generically, it almost feels like, how could it not be a simulation at this point? Mm-hmm. I mean, it is so ridiculous.
It feels like we're just playing out a movie. That's what life feels like right now. And it's so crazy. It's like a circus. And I don't even know. I would not be surprised at this point if that was not the reality of things.
I know it is interesting. And, you know, like, I guess for me, when I think about this subject now, you know, I'm not an expert on like, you know, physics and stuff like that, but in quantum physics and stuff, but I got to just say, and again, with all this, you know, all my years of investigations and stuff like that, it's like there is thoughts of like, well, maybe when we get EVPs, maybe that's voices from another dimension, like, or like a parallel universe. There is those thoughts. As far as like a Matrix though type of thing, I mean, God, that's some deep thought. And it almost does feel like that at times. And what if we are hearing in like ghosts, you know, things like that? What if some of these ghosts and stuff like that? I mean, for all you know, Tammy, maybe your situation is like some corrupted, you know, malware.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. And it's like you're experiencing like your character, your avatar in this Matrix, you're experiencing some kind of malware attack, and it's like this 30-year attack, and you just can't seem to clean your windows or something. You know? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, I guess that could explain like deja vu things too, right? Like,
possibly. Have you ever entertained that thought of like, do you ever really get into like those ideas of like, hey, parallel universes, extra dimensions, or, you know, a Matrix?
I've had conversations about the whole dimension thing, but that's not something I've done like a deep dive in. I've always been like, okay, well, maybe that could be it, but nothing like much further than that.
Fair enough.
I do think, I mean, I've also had conversations because I know aliens are gonna come up in this, but, like, are aliens, demons the same thing? Like, that's something that I've kind of thought about too, so
Interesting. Now we are going to get into a little bit of an alien story next segment. So um, I don't know. I think that it, like you said earlier, there's almost like this movie script sometimes. Life has gotten so upside down on things. And again, I'm trying to avoid specifics, but I mean, we had just so many crazy things happen in the world of politics. We had an assassination attempt, and it was almost as if like those things were swept under a rug and just moved into these other crazy things that happened. And it's just like up is down, down is up.
yeah, good is bad and bad is good, like, I don't know. I don't even
Yeah,
know what to say about any of it anymore. It's just kinda crazy to me. Like,
yeah,
there certain people are playing at their own rules, and nothing's how it used to be at
no.
all.
And now, did you ever did you see the movie The Matrix?
Yes, I did. My
Okay,
dad actually did the temporary fence work for that movie.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Um, I bring that up because if you remember, there was a character in there, Joe Pantoliano's character. He was the one that wanted to go back into the Matrix, right?
Mhm.
So, spoiler alert! I'm going to spoil an old movie. Now it's considered an old movie. It's crazy, but he wanted to go back in the Matrix, and he sort of threw the crew under the bus, right?
Mhm.
So he could get back in the Matrix. And sometimes I feel like that's how there's a lot of people it almost similar. Like there's a lot of his characters, like people that instead of being woke up from the Matrix, they they sense it and they all like don't want to be woke up. They're like, no, 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 leave me alone. I like the Matrix. I'm happy. I don't want to see beyond this reality.
Yeah,
And
but
it
it's almost like
really
brainwashing. Same
yeah,
thing.
and it really feels like that because there's some people, it's like you try to have like a rational conversation. You're just
Mhm.
like, hey, this candidate is a certain way, this candidate is a certain way. Let's compare. And they're like, no, like your candidate is freaking, insane or whatever. Like, everybody just freaks out. There's like
Yeah.
this cognitive dissonance, and they just don't want to be woke up from the matrix in a way. That's what it reminds
Yes,
me of.
and definitely, or you can put proof in someone's face and be like, "This is what's happening. Look at this," and they don't want to see it. They're like
Right.
totally blinded to the truth, which
Or
is
they just use some other thing to try to just
yeah,
pull them to some kind of like, well, there's this. And it's like, yeah, but that's not really a thing. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And
exactly.
like, so, but that's what it reminds. So when I see an article like this, that's what I think about our world, and it's like, yeah, there's this possibility like that we're, when you really break down, they say that, we're really, there's nothing solid. Technically, even the most hardened of things, there's still space in between atoms.
Mhm.
Like, so it makes you wonder if we could be all just bits of data and programming in a different kind of way, broken down in a way.
Right.
um Kat says no logical conversations at all.
No.
It's like the world is going backwards. Exactly. And again, I'm still trying to talk generic because again, I think there's always a time and place for politics, but we're just in such a crazy world that no matter what side you're on, nobody can look at the other side
Right.
and try to give in it. And the thing is, I really try to like understand both sides of the story, but it's almost like there's a most of the people I talk to that are on the other side, they don't want to compromise at all. Like there's no give. And
Right.
they're just like, do not tell me that stuff. And it's like they refuse to again, it's like they just refuse to take the pill.
Right.
And they don't want to. They it's almost like they just feel like if they do it, there's no going back, and then they're going to be They're going to lose all their friends. They're going to lose their life, everything they've known, and they're going to be eating, a soup. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it's just crazy. Alexander says exactly. It's like the world simulation is opposite. It is so nuts.
Now, do you
So
think that the Mandela effect kind of plays into all of that too?
it's possible. I mean, think about like if this was a Matrix, what if they went and did firmware upgrades? you know? and like firmware upgrades were the way that we thought we experienced something, but it was just like this firmware upgrade that kind of changed some things, some very minor details on accident, and all of a sudden we're like, we still have some of that old programming bits and pieces in us, and we're like, wait a minute, it wasn't the Bernstein Bears, it was the Berenstein Bears or whatever, whatever some of the Mandela effect stuff is. So yeah, you bring up a good point. That could be part of what we experience in the Matrix.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's so many things that can point to that, and I wouldn't have thought that like years ago, but now it's like everything's so wonky. How could you not at least consider that to be something that's going on?
Yeah, and it's almost like the computers behind the AI behind everything was like, oh God, we thought we were giving people what they wanted. Turns out that's a very small minority of people, and a lot of people are upset that everything's getting out of skew. They're like, what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. Do this. Try to course correct, and they just keep over course correcting, and we're just swerving out of control. I don't know. It's weird. It really.
It is weird. And then, like, how would we handle it if it comes out that that is the case? Like, how do you move forward with life? I don't know. That would be crazy.
I don't know. I just I don't know. I guess it would depend if you got to see if you got to literally come out of a matrix and literally into some other world. What would that be? Would it be post-apocalyptic like in the movie, or would it just be, or would we just be in a farm? I mean, I would imagine like it would be very similar to the Matrix, where we would have to be some kind of farmed creature, probably for energy, because as of right now, AI doesn't have a way of problem solving, self-sustaining energy. So it would have to get to a certain point with AI to where it can start thinking and making actual decisions and inventions, and then start realizing, hey, we can harvest the human bodies for energy, blah blah blah, and we can keep them in this like VR, virtual reality type situation. But I would think us physically being in that situation for so many years, we probably could not physically wake up from that coma. I think that would be the problem.
I think so too. And I don't know how I feel about the whole AI thing anyways. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably a whole nother subject.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know about